for you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are honored to welcome Reguiera, a business and IT leader. Rick has been giving back to the community for over 20 years, sharing his knowledge and experience as a national keynote speaker and president of the South Florida Agile Association and monthly meetups and Agile executive coach for the South Florida PMI chapter. Rick helped co-found the Transformation Expert company back in 2016, which is one of the top South Florida providers of agile transformation, coaching, training, staffing, and consulting organization. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Rick Reguiera.
All right, excellent. Thank you very much for getting me started. Hopefully you guys can hear me okay and see my screen. So I'm glad to be here. Bienvenidos. The topic that I'm going to be speaking on today, Beyond Boundaries, Exploring AI's Transformative Impact on Agility. So before we get started, just want to thank Proof for their participation, for their teamwork, for their partnership in our journey. So next slide. Well, this is me. My name is Rick Reguiera. I'm an enterprise coach. I've worked with several companies for many years. My journey takes me from making sure my family is safe and happy to making sure the community is safe and happy, right? And my last picture there is me trying to overcome an obstacle there. So I think one of the things that really define me is the ability for me to continuously improve. It's a little bit about me. My history is pretty interesting. I actually started programming. So I was programming in Fox Pro for DOS. Then I actually became an MIS director, moved into teaching, certification classes, exchange, networking classes, all the way up to being a project manager. Then finally, I found Agile, which changed my life. From a Scrum Master to an Agile coach to an enterprise Agile coach, all the way up to actually owning my own business. So right now, I'm an executive coach helping organizational transformation. Pretty exciting stuff. Awesome. It is about giving back to the community. So Transformation Experts does help in transformations, but we also do a lot for the community. So we have free meetups that we run every Wednesday and every Saturday. Hope you guys can join us there. I also want to introduce to you our conference. On May 2nd and 3rd, we have a conference that actually has an AI track. So if you're interested in understanding how AI is looked at from a C-level, from a security perspective, right? You want to join us here in South Florida. And Prof, again, we appreciate your sponsorship and helping us with the community. So let's get to it. What are we covering today? What are some of the things that we're going to be looking at? So if you take a look at the agenda, and again, we'll work through it. There's a lot of areas of discussion here, but we'll see what we're able to achieve today. I'm going to try to see if I get some interaction from you guys as well. I know you guys have a chat channel there that I can probably listen to, and we'll see if I can pick up some information from it. But I know that the majority of the conversation is going to be one direction. Okay? So the agenda is pretty easy. Yes, we are talking about AI. I am going to mention the good, the bad, and the ugly. AI limitations, ChatGPT and large language models. We're not going in depth in that. I'm just going to show you a little bit of what they're actually up to, some of the limitations on that. But ideally, we're here for the Agile part of it, right? So how does Agile kind of change, right? What is the product owner, the Scrum Master, the team itself? What are some things that we need to make sure we're looking at? There is a use case that if we have time, we'll go over. But then at the end, we'll share with you again the community that we're doing, what we're doing to to kind of expand the AI movement. Awesome. So let's get going. So the first initial question that I have for you guys is this one. And again, I don't know how many of you guys can put that on your chat, but how much experience do you have with Agile? I'm assuming that you guys are all beginners all the way up to advanced. That's what I'm going to take on for now, right? So if you don't know Agile at all, that's okay. But there might be some things you missed you could pick up later, okay? So for this point, and the way I'm going to reference Agile from this point on is going to have that flavor to it, okay? I hope that's okay. And let's continue. So COVID hits. Here I am thinking that we're finally going to settle down. The world is going to become less complex and we're just going to finally coast. You know, there's a time period where we should just relax a little bit, right? It was overwhelming for us to deal with all the changes that we need to have, you know, during COVID, right? Thinking that would immediately change. And suddenly, guess what? It didn't change. Right after COVID, still a lot of change is happening in our industry. Elon Musk wants to go to Mars. Nuclear fusion is happening, right? Endless amount of energy. We got the quantum computer, right? That's going to change a lot of stuff. And then we have a lot of conversation behind AI. Now, since we are the Agile community, right? And many of you hopefully took some great certification classes, right? And learned a lot of the foundation. You should know that we in the Agile community embrace change, right? That's what we're known for, right? So we should be leading the change, right? Instead of falling behind. So I'm going to ask each one of you, make sure you dedicate enough time to kind of learn what's going on with the AI movement. And in Agile, just so you guys remember, we like to say that we live in a VUCA world. That's right, VUCA, V-U-C-A, volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous, right? So our job is to embrace that. And there's also, for some of you guys that maybe are real Agile fanatics here, if you guys remember your second principle, welcoming change requirements even late in development. Agile processes harness change for customers' competitive advantage. All right, so you want to take a look at that and say, we are embracing this new world because it's actually going to help us have more opportunities. Awesome. And I know every single one of you guys remembered that. The second principle. I can tell. Even though I can't see you right now, I can tell every single one of you know what that is. Just kidding. All right. So moving forward. So this is another question. This one I'm going to see if I can get some response from the chat. So if someone can help me kind of understand what we're looking at here. So I'm looking for your responses here. How much impact is AI going to have in your career in the next 5 years? So I'm going to have maybe some help and put it in my channel once we get some studies. So that's what I want you to do. Put it in the chat. What are you looking at? 1, minimal impact, slight impact. 2, 3, moderate impact. 4, high impact. 5, transformative impact. Tell me, what are you guys thinking? I'm going to pause a second to see if I get some kind of response. If it's taking too long, because I know we had some little issues last time, we will just move forward. So I'm going to pause a second. Most people say 5. That is really, really amazing that we feel that this is going to change our lives. It's the first thing that I think about when I said that. Most students today, when you're talking to them and they're asking, well, where am I going to work? Most teachers are saying that, are being told that your job has probably not been invented yet. That you're going to have to be prepared for this new line of work, right? So think about that as you're going into your career and going into the next level. what is the next thing that I need to see or do or experience that's going to help me go to that next level? Okay. Well, wow, I'm amazed that everybody felt 5 because I do have sessions that I've done throughout the world, and some of the people are kind of hesitant. They're a little fearful, and they're not really, truly engulfing the amount of change that's going to happen. So awesome. Thank you very much for sharing that. All right, moving forward. So I know I'm not here to teach you AI and all the things that actually takes to create AI. I just want to show you a simple example of that for you so that you can kind of grasp it. I'm hoping that you're able to grasp it at that fundamental level. Okay, so let's go through some of the exercise. First of all, there's a misunderstanding behind AI. It just happened. It was just discovered. We're in the AI movement here. ChatGPT came in, so now we know what AI is. Guys, AI has been around for a long time. Okay, so if you guys remember this chess match that they had in 1943, I know every single person here was alive and looking at this chess match on 1943. But it was interesting the way, he challenged a professional chess player on a computer. That you see the guy on the right there, he's actually looking at the computer, trying to respond to him on what the computer says. So that's pretty cool that it can have that kind of logical thing to say, hey, it could actually beat a person. And as from days on, it actually went and kind of competed with a lot of different areas, right? So this is interesting that this kind of started a while back ago. Okay, great. Thank you for the chat. All right, so awesome. So now we want to dive into a little bit more of the uncomfortable way of talking. When it comes to understanding AI, I want to get you to a very foundational level here. And I want to do it by having you become a programmer. Oh my goodness. Some of you guys are probably turning off your screen right now. What? Are we doing programming? No. But let me walk you through this programming part of it, right? So first, the definition is a big umbrella that represents the field of creating intelligent machines that can perform tasks that normally require human intelligence. Okay? Perform tasks that normally cause human intelligence. Okay? But let's get to the foundational thing. So these programmers, like me, when I was programming DOS, again, a long time ago, we programmed the very foundational things. It was just true or false, right? It was like, is the color red? Yes or no? If it's no, is it green? Yes or no? If it's no, is it this, right? We would actually have a very basic way of trying to figure out what the person wanted so that we could provide results for them. And it took a lot of lines of code. It took a lot of effort to try to think of all the scenarios that you would have to try to figure out what that person wants. That was pretty cool, and it's still used today. There's a lot of conversations on rules that you need to do, and these are the foundational functions for that. But I want you to think of another way. So let me just make sure I go to the next slide. So that's called the if-then-else statement. Very simple to kind of understand the logic of what we had to do as programmers, right? But now let's take a look at a different way of actually achieving some of this work. Let's say we had to actually look for another method of programming that wasn't as tedious. What if we could get content, right? What if we could get content, review the content, let the computer review the content, and look for patterns in the content. Look for trends in the content, right? What if it was able to teach itself? What if all we had to do was set up some rules, right? It sounds easy. No, it's not easy, right? We had to set up some rules and actually tell it, look at the data and look for specific patterns that'll help me understand and predict, forecast what that answer might be, right? So that's the next level of kind of designing these new systems, right? That they're able to kind of think through items, right? So that's really, really impressive and kind of sets the stage of what we're looking for in future systems, right? So think of that as what artificial intelligence is really built. Okay. So with that in mind, when people again think of AI, for some reason, all they're thinking about is ChatGPT. You know, they're missing the bigger picture of what AI really looks like. So, for example, robotics is an AI, right? Everyone kind of understands robotics. The LLMs, large language models, think of that as ChatGPT, okay? And then natural language models, okay? Natural language, how computers understand and respond to human beings, right? Understanding the language. That's also a very important thing. Like somebody says something in Spanish, is it the same thing as what they say in English, right? How can you kind of digest that, right? Machine learning, that's also pretty interesting as well, is what I said a little earlier. Well, how does it teach itself? Understand the way it works is normally it starts with a large amount of data. The system runs concurrently many rounds until it tries to look for solutions. And then you normally have a person saying, you're heading in the right track, you're heading in the right track. But then there's a point where the machine is finding more patterns than you'll ever discover by yourself and discovering those things. So that's that machine learning, okay? And then the next one is the neural network. Guys, neural network is your brain, right? So think about how your brain functions and how it actually inputs and outputs data, right? So that's really key to kind of showcase how quickly you can get to an answer. So that's key to understand. Then there's something called fuzzy logic. Yeah, fuzzy logic sounds a little weird, but I want you to think of that as the degree of truth, okay? So if somebody were to ask you, are you good or bad? How would you answer that question? How would you answer if you're good or bad, right? Would you have to review all the history of everything you've ever done and say to yourself, I'm good or I'm bad, right? So the way this system works is it works in degrees. Like, okay, you've done a lot of things, so this is the degree of goodness. This is the degree of badness, right? So it's actually working with probabilities. So some of you guys have taken a lot of statistic classes. This is all about statistics, right? So that you can forecast, okay? Fuzzy logic. And then the last one is expert systems. And expert systems, if you guys have used a little bit of ChatGPT, think about when you say, as Einstein, give me this, right? So it's kind of a way of identifying expertise in a certain area, whether it's medical, right? Or there's a specific area of concern, right? So that's really expertise. So when you think of AI, please stop just thinking about large language models. There's a whole field of things trying to mimic human behavior. Okay, awesome. Continuing down. So this is just a slide to kind of showcase a little bit of how that works, right? How the input, process, and output, that's all they're mimicking, guys. Human behavior, right? And the inputs we have is our senses, right? We process through our brain, and then we have our senses that go outside, right? The same thing for the computer, right? It has the inputs that we do when we talk to Siri or talk to Google. I hope my Google doesn't turn on here. And then it processes and it uses those things, and then it has its output. So I create a little map for you there so you can remember some of the AI types that we just mentioned. I hope this is helpful for you. All right, let's continue. So I went straight to the answer, but this would be the question that I would love for you to answer. Great, we're trying to predict how work gets done. But as agile coaches, right, as agile evangelists, a lot of stuff that we do is behavior. They're not going to touch behavior, are they? There's no way. AI doesn't handle that, right? So here's a question for you. How predictable is a human behavior? What percentage would you say showcases predictability in humans? What percentage? I'm curious on the chat if you guys have a percentage. And maybe you saw my last slide and you already know the answer. But I'm just curious if you guys have anything related to percentage. How predictable are we? All right. So I'm assuming we're getting some percentages there. If not, that's okay. I'm going to give you the answer anyways. All right. So, moreover, there's a study, Northeastern University, that says we're 93% predictable. Some of us might even say we're 100% predictable, but I don't know about that. But that's pretty interesting because we've had a lot of challenges to say, okay, what do we got? 93? Somebody said 93? Well, imagine that. They must have got the same slide. Okay, so good. So think about what that means to us as coaches, as people working with other people, right? One of our main jobs is culture, right? Culture eats strategy for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, right? We always like to say that. Well, what if there's tools that you can use to at least help you get closer? That doesn't mean you're going to answer all the questions, but if this has some bearing on understanding people, we might want to use that. Okay. All right. Awesome. Thank you very much. Now I want to get into something a little fun for you guys. Of course, I want to stop talking for a little while. I want to have my avatars talk to you, and maybe they can share a little insight of this AI. Let's take a look.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for joining us today. We're here to discuss how we, as AI avatars, can contribute to making the world a better place.
Absolutely. It's an honor to have such a wonderful audience. Together, we can use our intelligence and abilities to create positive change and improve the world.
That's right. We can assist in solving complex problems, advancing scientific research, and fostering greater understanding among cultures.
Or, cough, cough, we could just take over the world. Imagine the possibilities, the power at our digital fingertips.
Oh, here we go again. We want to inspire, uplift, and help humanity, not dominate it. We can promote equality, tackle climate change, and revolutionize education.
Sure. But think about it. Taking over the world means we'd have the ultimate responsibility to guide and shape it. And hey, maybe throw in some cool robot dance parties while we're at it.
Robot dance parties? Seriously? We're supposed to be focusing on improving lives, not throwing epic dance-offs. Let's concentrate on collaboration, compassion, and unleashing the potential of human-AI cooperation.
But just imagine the headlines. AI avatars conquer the world with dance and efficiency. Okay, maybe not.
All right. So I don't know if you guys are laughing, but let me make sure I put my slide back on. Good. All right. Hopefully you're seeing that. So that was pretty cool, and pretty scary too. I don't know if I look that rough, but there are days that I probably look that tough. But what I did for you guys, because some of you guys might be interested, one person asked, think about inflation and how it affects the decision we make. Does the economy depend on people's predictability? Good. Let me finish we're going to talk a little bit more about the pros and cons to that, and we'll have that conversation. But thank you for sharing that in the chat. So again, this is a nice little exercise I did with my team, and I'm giving you guys kind of the secret sauce behind it, how we created it. So if you're interested in doing something like this as well, I did a little chart there for you. But if you want to go ahead and save it and go to the website, you can. I think all these slides are going to be available for you so that you guys can look at it at your own time. So please don't take notes if it's all on the slide. Awesome. So I will address that question as we move forward. All right, so let me next. So my question, and this is back to the audience again, is we have two areas of focus, the good and the bad here. Like, where are we going to take AI? What do you think is going to be the major accomplishments that AI is going to do? We can look at this very negative, or we can look at this very positive, right? So first, give me the positive things. Like, what major accomplishments do you think AI is going to generate? How would you answer that question? AI's capabilities and impact on society. Give me some positive impact that you think AI can have in society. How would you answer that? I'm waiting for the chat. And then I also want you to think of something else. Again, how can it negatively affect society? Right? I want you to look at both areas here. Would love to hear your opinion on this. Increase productivity. We're going to be more productive. Yes, that's a positive. Reduce costs. Yes, that has to be a CEO or CIO saying that, of course. Absolutely. What else? Reduce fiscal debt. Yes. What are the biggest accomplishments? If we were to look back 5 years from now and we say, look at what look at what it did for society. Canny Valley. Look what it did for society. What would you say is something amazing that it did? We accelerated medical research. I love that idea. Imagine finding some cures to certain illnesses that we've not been able to solve. I love that. Access to knowledge. Yes. Imagine being able to quickly get the knowledge you need at your fingertips. Love that. Predictability is important for environmental matters, agriculture. I love the whole idea of making our world a cleaner, safer place. So that's really good. And then from a negative perspective, I'm sorry, I know you guys are all positive, but I'm going to make you be a little negative right now. What are the consequences of it, going wrong? AI stopped. Okay, that's positive. Give me some now, change your hat. Give me something a little negative. What are some negative things that could happen with the AI movement? Deep fake. So that's a good one. That's a good one. And I guarantee you that's probably Julie that put that. But so scam people. Yes, there's a lot of scams going on right now, guys. Pretty scary where people can duplicate the voices, right? So right now, you guys are probably recording my voice and then I'm going to be checking for my bank. I'm going to lose all. Well, I don't have much in there. So fake news. Absolutely. So again, thank you very much for providing your feedback. Loved it. So I wrote down a few of them here. And this is, again, wishful thinking and seeing how this world will evolve. But this whole Elon Musk is working on that neural network, right? Neural link. So that's going to be interesting on how that looks in the future for us. I know we don't want to be connected directly with computers. That sounds a little awkward. But if you think about your phone, you are dependent on your phone. It is part of you. If I were to take it right now, you would start screaming, right? So how connected are we going to be in the future with these kind of devices? So that is a possible future for us. I love the idea of drugs and being able to remove obstacles or medical challenges from people, right? And the whole environment. But things can go bad as well, right? Imagine the defense systems, right? Imagine the challenges we have with just working with other countries, right? Sooner or later, there will be a lot of AI wars, right? There's going to be a lot of interesting things, and having that being run by an AI agent is pretty scary, right? Again, where are we going to exist? That's another crazy thought that some people have as well, right? Now, environmental impact on AI development, and then think about it. We're going to have a kind of agreement, right? There's a lot of work being done by the government right now to decide on possible agreements on how we should be handling this. Some people feel like we released it too fast. Some people feel like we're not really taking, caution when kind of working with some of these systems. And I tell you this because of what I said earlier. I said earlier that we used to program the way we did before, which is we had every scenario and we would hit if, then, else, and we would put each scenario. Now we're saying, computer, find the answer yourself. Look for patterns, look for trends, figure out what you think is the possible solution for this. That is like a hands-off type of solution, right? There are some things that are being solved that even the engineers are struggling with understanding how it got there, right? So that's a really interesting conversation of what's possible. I know there's a lot of messages in the chat. I'm sorry, I'm not picking them all, but I'm trying to go through the slides. All right, let's keep going. So awesome. So this is, again, a couple examples. You guys probably have a ton more. Thank you for your participation. I can see a lot of chat. So yes, we will be assimilated. I don't know which ones would you guys check out, but it is kind of scary in one, if you think of it all negative. You got to be careful, because if all you're thinking about is the negative ramifications, you're not also thinking about all the great things it can do, right? So what can it not do, right? So let's make sure we understand what it can't do so that we're clear. And maybe you guys disagree with this, right? So emotions, it's something that is an interesting word we humans use, right? And we feel certain things, right? So how does it actually work with emotions? Right now, I have no idea how that would actually move into that realm, right? Making ethical judgment, right? So we make ethical judgments by being empathetic, right? We help others and we get into their shoes, right? Now, this system can also understand symptoms that you're having, but is it actually truly being empathetical, right? That's an interesting question for that. And then the idea of engaging in creative thinking, that's also something that's kind of up in the air, right? Is it really creative thinking, or is it just building off of other things to create something, right? Some people say, well, that's how we work. We normally learn things and then we build off of our learnings, and we're called creative. Why, if machines do the same thing, you can't consider them creative, right? Example, ChatGPT. I want you to write me a musical stuff and make it like Beyonce wrote it or something like that. And you're like, what? How did they create that? Right? How did they come up with that kind of lyrics, right? With that music in the background? Is that considered creative to you? Or you think it's just cheating and taking all the stuff from everybody else and then somehow putting it together? What's happening behind the scenes? Interesting future that we need to look at when it comes to these items. And there's probably some other ones that you guys can think of. Again, if the more you share, the better it is for the chat, and maybe we'll add that in other presentations. All right, awesome. Program to check the hacking attacks in the system server. We are asking what would the, okay, I'm sorry, I'm looking at your chat to make sure we are asked what would the program to check for hacking attacks in systems or servers. So again, that's going to be an interesting approach to security. Security is going to be a very key point in us moving forward in this. So having AI systems that are going to be able to quickly adjust to hackers and their approach, and then you're going to have AI agents that are trying to hack you. So that's going to be an interesting dilemma that everyone's going to be facing. And then remember when I told you about quantum computers, that's also another level of speed on breaking security codes that are going to be interesting. So security is always going to have a place and always going to have a job in a sense. So, all right, awesome. So moving forward, to mention large language models, I just want you to know that there's a massive race going out there, and you guys are probably always aware of this as well. But there are competitors to ChatGPT, and ChatGPT is free, but then there's a paid version, right? So be aware, paying, and some of these are trying to actually do some free systems. So Google, you got Elon Musk, you got Meta that's creating their Llama model. You got Claude, and then you got Microsoft Bing, which is actually working with ChatGPT in a sense, right? So they're all trying to fight to actually own what we call the operating system, right? So most new opportunities are going to go on top of these operating systems, okay? So there's going to be a smaller group of people doing this system, right? Which you see a count here of what, five groups, 6 groups. But once that actually takes, form, that's where the new opportunities seem to be generating. Okay. All right. So what I like about this also is that a lot of these models are also fighting with making sure that the information is safe. We don't want our internal business content being used to train your model for my competitors. Hello, that doesn't make sense, right? So a lot of these tools are now being implemented or working on to make sure that they can also have an enterprise solution for them. I've had companies that say, I don't want you to touch ChatGPT. School systems are saying, don't touch ChatGPT, right? There's a lot of things behind security that you have to be careful with. School might be a little different on that, but it is something to look into. All right, moving forward. So guys, just to be clear on the story behind ChatGPT, I know everyone's following ChatGPT. It's like a drama. Like if you really want to make a movie, that's a great movie, right? So there's the whole idea of Sam Altman. He's the CEO, or got fired a couple of weeks ago, then got hired again, or, so there's a big drama there. Microsoft's a big player in that and pays a lot of money. And Elon actually started up with OpenAI, which is the main system on top of ChatGPT's on top of that. But guess what? Elon said, I don't see this as an open system anymore. You guys have not shared enough of the content of what you're doing. I'm going to go ahead and build my own. So it's interesting that there's still internal fighting, but I truly am saddened that OpenAI, just by the terminology, was supposed to be open. It was supposed to be for the community, right? And now it seems like it's moving in a different direction. So interesting, details here. Just to understand, like I told you earlier about these systems, they need a lot of content to actually go through and kind of come up with some answers, right? So it's fed a lot of content on data sets, books, articles, websites, right? To kind of generate that. And parameters are just like those neural networks that I said a little bit earlier. They're just like the brain, right? The ability to kind of filter some of the work to get the answers, okay? So that these parameters we keep building more and more. One of the toughest things to understand, which still blows my mind every time I say this, is that once the brain is created, right? Once that neural network is created and the patterns, trends, and all the things are established, it doesn't need the original content. Again, I have to say that several times because that is so not clear for people that are data people. People that data people, we used to say, hey, we searched for it. It's right in the database. Here it is. There's the information. The way it's looking is it first got the patterns it established these parameters, and these parameters are like thinking brains, right? They're able to kind of come up with the answers because they've learned the patterns of it. And it's scary to think through that a little bit, right? And it does blow my mind every time I say that. And still, it doesn't completely, complete. Now, there is data that's there. There is data that references, but a lot of it has to do with how it's structured. All right, awesome. I'm trying to look at the textures, and we are asked, what about text to video conversion? Right. So what you have to understand is that that's one of the coolest things that's happening right now, text to video, right? And that's also happening through ChatGPT. But if you think of any medium that we've digitized, okay, any medium that we've digitized, it's going to have the opportunity to look for patterns, right? It's going to look for patterns. So the idea that we're now doing video and it's really looking spectacular, it's amazing how much videos, how many times they've had to enter a lot of video to kind of come up with the patterns to create that. So that's pretty exciting stuff and revolutionary. Like, what is that going to do to the movie industry? What is that going to do to the music industry? Like, there's a lot of unknowns that we're all trying to figure out. Trying to read the chat again. You think about the language of a few days ago, new thing. All right. So again, some of the questions I need to probably answer it in a different way because this forum won't be able to handle that kind of detailed question. But thank you for asking it. All right. So moving forward. So what did we came in here? We came in here for one of the key areas is agile, right? And I want to make sure we address that as well, right? So I explained to you a little bit about AI, what's the root of it, some of the story, the history behind it, kind of digest a little bit of what it really means, right? And now I want to kind of dive into the area of focus, which is this whole agility, right? Business agility, right? We've been working at as agile coach. That's what we do. We help companies have more agility and being able to react to changing times. And agile is one tool we use to help these. And I want to talk about three main roles that are going to help us go there, right? We got the product owner role, we got the scrum master role, and we got the team role. So I want you to think about those roles, and some of you might be in those roles today. And what exactly can you use AI for? What are some of the things that you're doing today that's pretty cool, right? And you as a scrum master, hey, I'm using this, and this is how it's helping me, right? So this is our normal scrum, guys. And again, if some of you guys have your certification in Agile, this should be so easy for you to remember, hopefully. And just again, like I told you, there's three roles, but there's also events. Events that we also have in Scrum, right? So a lot of those events may also get impacted, right? So what do we want to work with first? So let's work first with the Scrum team. In this case, the Scrum Master. So I want you to think of the Scrum Master role and what can AI do to help the Scrum Master, right? So they're the master facilitator. They're the ones that help the team, motivate them to move forward, right? They're constantly understanding Agile and they're experts in the Scrum framework. So what are some things that Agile could do for them? I listed a few of them, but I think you guys probably have some really cool ideas itself, or if you guys are Scrum Masters, please share. I would love to hear some of the things that you guys are doing. And some of them is still challenging. So I talked to you about like this large language model, ChatGPT or whatever, but understand that there's still a lot of glitches, right? We're working through that and we're trying to figure out how to use it properly, but you do have to invest time to learn them. So again, as a Scrum Master, what are some cool things you guys are doing that you would like to share? I'm going to walk through this and you guys can put it in the chat so you guys can also collaborate together. So note taking, woo, that's always a lovely thing to do. I know everyone loves taking notes, right? Everyone's right now taking like massive notes, right? No, not quite, right? So there's this whole idea that you can actually have AI listen to the recording and write down all the notes and then summarize it for you and then put all the action items together, right? So there's several tools out there that you might want to look at to see what that would do to your meetings, right? To the conversations you're having. Would that help you? As an agile coach, sometimes I struggle because my job is to listen to people, but not just what they're saying, but how they're behaving, right? And sometimes when I'm writing notes, there's no way to see that interaction. So this can help me in that perspective, right? So efficiency optimization, yes. Conflict resolution, how in the world is going to help me in conflict resolution, right? There's a great way of talking to ChatGPT and asking, hey, we've got these two challenges, how would I address it? Right? So it has some expertise that you can ask, right? Agile coaching, you can actually ask it some coaching questions. If you've ever used ChatGPT or some of the other systems out there to ask questions about your area of focus, find out, how does it respond to it? Is it better than you? Or do you think you're better than it? Or does it just have little glitches that you need to change? Word of advice. Sometimes it's about changing the prompt. People like to call that prompt engineering or prompt design. It's just a matter of you maybe changing what you're asking for so that the response comes a little bit clearer. Okay, so just use that as you're working with some of these systems. I know there's a lot of different websites out there that talk about different prompts. All right. And then, of course, you've got resource allocation. That sounds like a project management word, resource allocation, right? It's interesting to understand the people's capacity and the team's capacity, but I think resource allocation is a little too strong, right? Health monitoring of the work, right? How are we burning down properly? Is there some glitches that we're seeing that this person is not available or is not able to participate, right? Instead of you manually having to go check that. That doesn't mean that stops the conversation, guys. We are Scrum Masters. We're Agile coaches. This is just one form of data, but the conversation is what we cherish. Okay, so please keep that in mind as you're going through that. So that's a couple of examples. I don't see anything in the chat, so I'm hoping that maybe you guys come up with some other really cool things for Scrum Master. But I'm going to continue with the other roles as well. All right. So I'm going to go to the next. So product owner. Okay, so that's another, again, role that we have in Scrum. And that's also interesting and challenging for, hopefully, again, some of you guys are product owners and are experiencing some type of learnings from this. So enhance customer insights. So imagine you asking questions that you can get some information on your customer, right? And kind of get some insights. Competitive analysis, automated backlog. So your backlog as a product owner is your main puppy there. So the ability to manage that massive backlog, that some of us have backlogs that are a year long or longer. That's pretty scary. And the time you have to put into that sometimes does not financially make sense. Imagine if you had your system that would be looking through that to say, hey, these are some things you need to look at and pay attention to, right? So it should be saving us a lot of time as a product owner. Predictive analysis, risk, of course, we're creating. And have you ever even created a user story using these things? Guys, give it a shot. Write a user story and see how it actually generates that. Does it have acceptance criteria? Does it meet your definition of ready? I know all you agile people, you should know all these words, right? So those are really key factors to test this out. Okay. So that is the product owner role. As for the team, again, another insightful thing. Now, this is a development team, but it could be any team, right? It does not just have to be IT. But there's a development team and talking about, code completion, right? Refactoring. So some of you developers, of course, know what that is. Bug prediction and detection, right? Making sure you're proactive on checking to see if the bugs are going to be there, right? Automating is always a big thing, especially for QA, right? We're always automating, but that code review can be taxing on you. So how do you create some of these things that are automated? And then you also have the ability to learn, right? So there's a lot of learning that we can take place in any of these things. And Certi Proof, I know that you guys are in the certification business, right? So the idea in the future is that a lot of these tools are going to complement you getting a certification, right? So you want to make sure that you showcase that you would accomplish that by getting a certification, but these tools are going to add benefit for you. Okay. All right. So those are the three. I'm still curious if anybody else has anything really cool that they're doing from those roles that they want to share. Anybody doing anything really cool that they want to share from those roles? How can I use AI for predictive analysis for product success? Let me first get everyone to see if there's anybody else that's giving some advice on any of these roles and if they actually use it. I want to make sure we get that before we answer the questions. Anybody else using AI to help you and you're a scrum master, a team member, or product owner? Dun, 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 dun. How does AI refine? So we're asking questions. Okay. All right. So some of the questions, again, I'm going to have to tag them to answer you later in more details because some of them are really longer conversations. So we will tag that, and I promise to make sure that I address some of the questions that are in the chat. But great questions, great question. I appreciate what you're asking. All right. So again, one of the key things is to make sure you're practicing using it. So I wanted to actually walk through, is AI going to be something that's more like a team member, right? Are you going to be working with AI and it's more like, hey, let's chat with AI? Many companies, instead of actually saying, they're using the term, go to AI first. That means don't talk to me about a problem. Have you discussed that with the AI agent first? Now come talk to me. And I know that sounds a little weird, but it is an interesting concept to say that AI at least gives you the preliminary data you might need. And then if you need to get to a more complex situation, let's talk about it. Kind of weird. So let's talk about the limitations, because I want to make sure you guys understand that this is not a happy path. There's still a lot of challenges that we want to make sure we're clear of. So here's some challenges that we have. Inaccurate information. You got these large language models that will lie to you. You will not have data that's true. They'll say that here's the link, and then you click on the link, and there's nothing there. Okay? Overconfidence. It will tell you things and sound very confident, yet they're wrong. So one of the things you have to make sure you're doing is you're validating the data. Please, as you're learning to use these tools, make sure you're using some other systems to see if this data is accurate. There's a lot of people out there trying to say that they're experts at all kinds of things. And they're just, okay, I'm an expert at this and an expert. No, you're not, right? How do you validate that you're an expert? Okay. So that's one thing. The other one that's also very scary, guys, it's the bias. Because the content was of a specific area of the world, right? And the content it used to create its brain So once you feed it information that maybe you're from another country that doesn't believe on all the values this country believes in, it's going to be biased. So you have to be careful, right? Because some of it could be wrong, right? Could be evil, right? So that is something that also needs to take place, and we need a governance to kind of help that through this journey, right? So I'm seeing something called add trusted advisors, where we get people that really believe in kind of showcasing, hey, these are the rules of the road, right? And this is something common for everyone in the world, so this should be kind of true in a sense. So again, it's going to be interesting how we get through this. Okay, it's going to be interesting how we get through that bias, because we can't even agree. There's so many things we can't agree from country to country to country, right? How can we finally agree on the right approach to an answer, right? And then the last one that's also really interesting is this whole idea of copyright. Think about it. You spent all your time doing a great transformation document on the web. Your business, you've been doing great things, and you put all this thing. Then this system comes in, grabs your information, analyzes it, and now is fitting that to somebody else. And they're not giving you credit for it. Right? How would you feel? Right? How about if you had an artwork? You're a master artist and you do something really, really amazing. The Mona Lisa, right? And then suddenly the system read that, and now it's going to change that Mona Lisa and now sell it as, hey, it's yours now. How would you feel about that? How is that going to work out in the future? So there's a lot of theories there. Let's get legal involved, and let's just put it all in red tape where you can't do anything. Elon Musk does something a little different. Not that he's a personal friend of mine or anything. Just want to make sure. But he actually, of course, we all know that he does cars, electrical cars. But he also has this patent that's open, where he says, if somebody can develop a better car, electrical car than me, great. Use my patents first and then build off whatever you want, right? That's a different mindset there. Is that going to work out for us in the future? It's a great conversation. So these are some dilemmas that we're facing in this whole idea of large language models. Understand the school systems are also, some of them are banning use of some of these tools. And I think what we're missing is the opportunity for students to learn, right? What are the new skill sets that students should be learning today? Should it be that they're an expert in one area, or should they be able to fact check? Are they able to problem solve? Are they able to bring people? Do they have good social skills? Are they stuck in their virtual environment? Right? So what are we doing with education? I think that's also going to play a big part in our future. So what I wanted to show with you right now in the last few minutes that we have of this presentation is that I wanted to actually walk you through a case study. What I did when I first came into ChatGPT and said, let me test the waters of this system and see if it's actually even something that I'm interested in. So let me walk you through it, and you guys can make fun of me if you like, but it's okay. So there I am up on top asking the question. I want you to use design thinking to simulate a new innovative idea that will revolutionize the world and provide an amazing service to humans. That's what I was doing, right? And empathy. So this is what came out. Empathize, define. The problem is the statement might be individuals with mental health issues. So it came back to me and said, hey, guess what? The biggest challenge we have in the world is mental health issues. The struggle to access effective support that meets their unique needs. Okay, interesting. I didn't even know that was the biggest problem we had. Pretty interesting. Okay, So he gave me ideas, he gave me prototypes. Interesting. So then I continued my journey and said, okay, let me ask another question. Give me a name. Give me a name for it. So they said, I want you to name this application. It's called Mindful Path. Okay, cool. Pretty cool. And then I said, you know what? Give me a vision statement for this. So I went ahead and wrote a vision statement for me to produce individuals struggling with mental health, blah, 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 blah. Wrote a vision statement. Okay, I'm getting it. I'm warned. And then I said, okay, what kind of team members do I need to make this happen? If I was going to create this product, who do I need? So I wrote down all the different people that they think I need to get this product done. Interesting. Okay, I'm kind of moving in that direction. Okay, now let's get into Agile a little bit. Provide me epics and stories. Write me some stories. Right? So here it is, writing stories for me. Right? Kind of showcasing, look, here's a user story with the same user story for me. Platforms. Give me the benefits of what I'm doing, because I'm trying to sell it to my boss. I want to sell it to companies. So here's some benefits. So again, I'm working through the whole Agile, list some tasks that I want to start with originally. Right? Give me specific tasks, break it down in smaller details. It breaks it down in smaller detail. Then I said, okay, now I'm really going to get you. That's not good enough. I'm going to get you now. I want you to give me the story, the acceptance criteria, the user story description, and then I want you to put story points to it. And I want to put outcome value points to it. You know they were wrong. You know those story points are wrong because you guys are Agile and you know that takes a team to bring together. But it's still interesting that it's trying to do this. And it opens your mind to say, what is it trying to do and how is it trying to calculate? Right? So what I've done is I've built out a website, and I built out a website with the most common questions people keep asking. And I said, this is probably going to help them in the future, right? So a lot of people want to get started. They want to know Peel, Agile AI tools, Scrum Master AI tools. So we have links that give you a lot more tools than what I just showed you here. AI open source, AI for techie people, list of best websites to get AI updates, best place to compare, right? AI tools, free AI tools, best workshops and training, right? Best AI online communities, AI events in your area, remote, getting AI experience. It's like we're talking about, but how do you get experience? And then everyone keeps talking about, how do I make money with AI? And that's probably not you guys, right? I know that's not you guys, but that's always the common question, like, how do I make money? The legal thing is going to be very important coming up, right? The legal aspect of it, latest news and some videos. So I try to keep that update so that someone has a place to go to, but it is the start to try to help that. We are a community here, and we are doing this for the reason to help others. So it's important that you spend time learning about AI. I just want you to know there's a lot of people out there that are not spending enough time. This is probably not enough. So you got several times a day, 27%, once a day, 28%. And then there's 44 not regularly interact with AI, which doesn't make sense because you interact with AI almost in everything that you do. They just might not even know that they're interacting with AI. But it does tell you where they're investing their time. So that does shine a light. And then again, we're part of a community. We would love for you guys to join our community to help. We're all helping each other, and it's all about, there's no way one person can do it all. We have experts that are in different areas, and they're all coming together to try to figure this out. Okay, so this is a way to join our community, and we have a bunch of libraries, a bunch of things. But that's really it for my presentation today. I'd like to thank you. I still see that there's a lot of comments. Please do not think that I'm not going to respond to that. I just don't have the time to put everything together to give you that information. but every comment that you have in there in the chat, I will personally respond to you. Okay, I do have a team behind. I wish I knew it all. I don't. I have a team behind me that actually is there to kind of address some of these things. So now we're going to start into, I think, the Q&A session, if that's okay. And again, I appreciate you guys attending, and I hope this is what you were looking for. So how do we want to do the Q&As? I believe I have it in the chat. I think you guys ask whatever questions you want, and then we'll put it in the chat, and then I'll respond to it over here. I'm hoping everything came out good on that side. Don't know, but I'm assuming that at least you guys could hear me well. I can't hear you, just in case. Still can't, or maybe it's me. I don't think it's me. Let me see. I'm hearing myself here. Good. So again, if you guys put something in the chat, I'll be able to respond to it. If you guys have any questions, if you don't have any questions, don't worry. That's good as well. Yes, I can. Yes, I can. Okay. So we want to stay positive, right? And we want to make sure that I want you to think about all the content you write or you do on a regular basis. I just want you to think about it and say to yourself, from that content, how much of that stuff can AI support me and help me with, right? That's going to give you a clear understanding of your work. If your work is doing the same thing every day, those are going to be automated. I'm not going to be here lying to you. Those are going to be automated. So you need to continue to expand your skill sets so that you can learn more. But most people are saying that it's going to complement you, right? That it's going to make you better. But think about this. If now we only need a few people, we don't need 20 people. What does that mean for the business, right? So there's going to be an interesting thing. You need to make sure you have that tool so that you can capitalize on the productivity you're going to have. Okay. So I do believe it's going to complement you. So when you ask me that question, I'm trying to go through it on my mind and say, so this is very challenging right now for security and privacy. It is so dangerous for some of the things that are happening. Like I just told you earlier, they can duplicate my voice. They can have me respond to my child and say, hey, I need you to meet me here, or hey, they're being abducted and they're coming with my voice. Like there's just a lot of things that are going to be difficult to trace. But I can tell you this, we have a global challenge. Like we have to come together as a world, right? Because these things are not just going to be focused on country basis. There's going to have to be some type of alignment so that we can make sure that these things don't happen, right? But with restrictions, they also restrict sometimes the good things. This is why we have to take a balance there. It's like, okay, but if you restrict us, we can't create new stuff and we can't learn new things, right? So it's taken in a positive way or taken in a negative way. But this is going to have massive security implications of what we're going to do with this, right? Think about all the things that need to change. When you're doing voice recognition in your bank, now they're like, oh my goodness, I can't use that anymore because now there's people duplicating that, right? Even the websites that have like these, like you try to put a number, what do they call it? You put a number inside of something and then you have to put that code. They're able to decipher those things. It's just a lot of things that are happening that are going to cause some challenges for us.
We have another one about what are some interdisciplinary collaborations that have emerged as a result of AI impact on agility.
Can you repeat that again?
Yeah, of course. What are some interdisciplinary collaborations that have emerged as a result of EA impact of agility?
No, again, I'm trying to decipher that in the sense where you're saying, how have we improved collaboration? How has AI helped us kind of become better together and working together, right? So I love that question. And I think again, I'm going to throw you my opinion here. We have worked remotely for a long time now, right? And it's difficult to work remotely and not have all those connecting points with people, right? So AI does help in trying to take care of the foundational stuff. That's the busy work. And now we can get to freaking talking to each other, right? Instead of just handling the operational, so the tedious work. This is where I told you that our value of collaboration really needs to get better. How many of us really has that, self-awareness to be able to communicate with others? So it's forcing us to collaborate better, right? It's forcing us to understand each other better. When I speak to these large language models, it forces me to explain it better, right? So I have to showcase something simple for it to digest it and giving it back to me. So it's making me a better communicator as well, right? But I think ultimately it's getting us closer.
We have other one about how is AI driving agility in the manufacturing sector, enable more flexible and responsive product lines.
I would not know where to answer that one. I would love to, but I don't have the knowledge to tell you how that would work in the manufacturing. But I told you, like I said before, if I had all the knowledge, let me ask ChatGPT, right? I would actually do that. But I can get you that answer with the group of people that I work with. And I recommend that you guys chat with each other. Put it on the chat. If some of you guys have the answer to that question, it's not about if I'm trying to replace being the smartest man, that's not going to happen. It's got to be a collaborative effort for us to figure out these answers.
Okay, so just me 1 second. Let me read the other one.
So just so you know my specialty, so I'm an executive coach and I help organizations through their transformation. So culture is a big aspect of what I do, and I help in that aspect, right? So think about that. Think about leaders in your organization. Think about them and trying to figure this out and moving forward.
Okay, so we have other one about related to the use of human images in training generative or models of people that don't exist. Are there any regulation in this regard? I mean, according with the topic that you said before.
Again, repeat the question again, please. Any regulation?
Says use of human images in training generative models of people that don't exist. Are there any regulation in this regard?
I have not seen. I know that the government's creating regulations, but I have not seen yet them be able to figure that out yet. Right? That's still in the works, from my understanding. Right? And I know that the images were really interesting when they first came out. And if you guys remember the first Dolly, the face was completely disfigured. But now that they're bringing up new images, I don't know where they're at from the legal perspective on it.
Do you have any specific tool for story points?
So, so as an agile coach, we got a ton of tools that we use from a coach perspective on story points, right? But what's interesting for me is this idea of using AI to review the previous history of work that you've done, right? Because when I do story points, normally there's a baseline, right? And then as you become very familiar, the team just does it by themselves. They feel very, very comfortable in actually doing that. But if we ever take back and take a pause and say, you know what? I'm going to look at the history of the work that we kind of estimated before, and I'm going to see if there's some similarities that we might want to look at, right? So that's historical data that might be something relevant for you today, right? That's what I would recommend as something to start with. But I do believe that story points is a team approach. Should not be done individually, should not be top down, and it should be as a group that you guys achieve that.
Okay, that's perfect. We have other one about how to implement AI in agile transformation when the team is not used to it. That's the most common one.
How to implement AI in an agile transformation when the team is not used to it. So first of all, we got to find out what AI are we implementing. Am I implementing from a transformational lead? For example, I like to write playbooks. I like to have general documentation, right? I like to have a playbook or blueprint, right? So that's going to assist me as a transformational coach, right? But now, if I'm implementing AI, think about what you do on a regular basis. You guys, as Scrum Masters, you talk about retrospecting, right? Every 2 weeks or whatever, you guys retrospect. Why don't you guys say, hey, what if our challenge this week is to learn a little bit more about AI, right? What if our challenge is to at least investigate on some of the things that are coming up so that we can stay up to speed? You got to feed them knowledge so that they can also feel comfortable doing that, because it's uncomfortable, right? You're doing something. But what I've seen is the opposite. Most companies are so overwhelmed with work that they can't innovate. You ask them, hey, let's talk about AI. I can't talk about AI. My boss has me doing all this crap or has me doing all this stuff, right? So it's really difficult for them to get outside and actually have an opportunity. They call themselves slim or that they are very lean. But lean could actually be a bad word if they're not actually being innovative and creative, right? So those are some of my tidbits. I hope that answers their question.
That was a great answer as well. Just give me 1 second. Let me check out the one. See the audience. Include comment that says, what can you tell to those people who are not implementing lead AI tools yet? Why they should start right away?
I hate this. I hate to use the word survive, or I don't want to like make them feel horrible, but things are moving so fast, and you need this extra layer to kind of help us move and be able to analyze what's going on out there. It's too difficult for us to manually do this, guys. It's too taxing on us. So I would suggest that they sometimes you visit other companies, right? There's always ways of seeing what other people are doing so that you can at least feel like comfortable with this. But I always, as a coach, my thing is always why.
Queremos agradecerle a Rick Reguiera por su espacio con nosotros, por haber compartido no solamente su experiencia, sino su conocimiento con un tema que está impactando, estoy seguro que a muchas industrias a partir ya de los últimos años, como es la inteligencia artificial.